Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is the go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive deep into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti-aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science backed insights, powerful stories, and soul nourishing inspiration. If you're a woman over 40, 50, or older looking to thrive in the next chapter of your life, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Michelle Niemeyer. In her journey through the ups and downs of a demanding legal career, she encountered burnout, but also found a very remarkable way back, a concept that she calls the art of bending time. She wholeheartedly believes that what helped her thrive again could greatly benefit my listeners today while saving them time that it took her to learn how to flip the switch from overwhelm or feeling dead inside to thriving, happy, and fulfilled. It offers a very unique and systematic approach to designing and living a great life while avoiding self destruction. It took the scary diagnosis of a rare autoimmune disease to force her to reckon with her train wreck of a lifestyle and embark on a 10-year journey of learning and self discovery. She became a certified health coach while diving into learning about the concepts behind functional and integrative medicine. She took action to remove toxins from her environment and her food and to improve her nutrition and sleep habits. Through coaching education, personal development seminars with leaders like Brendan Burkhardt and Dean Graziosi, studying the works of positive psychology pioneer Martin Seligman and others, the leadership training with the Tony Robbins organization, she learned different ways to approach finding clarity, making significant mindset changes, and managing stress. Today, she considers that diagnosis to be one of her greatest gifts. As a result, she now focuses on sharing this transformative journey and helping others finding their joy again. The art of bending time is a unique way of looking at time through a holistic and systematic approach to all aspects of life. Some say we should have a work-life balance. She says work-life balance is BS. Connecting the dots through all the aspects of our lives is where our special gifts can shine and magic happens. Her clients gain at least 10 hours of productive time each week without having to quit their jobs so that they can do the things they love, and the synergies they create build success personally and professionally. Depending on the person, other side effects can include weight loss or other health improvements, stress reduction, higher levels of productivity, financial rewards, and most importantly, the ability to design a life that they love. And without further ado, Michelle, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited about our conversation, and I just can't wait to dive right in.
Well, thank you, Susan. I'm happy to be here as well. Thanks for the invitation.
It's an honor to have you, and I'm so excited. about this conversation. And I just want to get right into, you had this demanding legal career, right? That led you to burnout. Can you share what that period of your life looked like and how it ultimately led to you to creating the art of bending time?
Okay, and I let me clarify a little because I'm not going to say that my legal career led to burnout. I'm not
Okay.
sure that's really fair. And there are lots of busy jobs, right? There are lots of things people do that they work for long hours. And yes, as a lawyer, there were times that I pulled all-nighters. There were times that I was in trial and I slept 3 or 4 hours a night for 2 weeks. But there were also times where I was able to take 3 week vacations. So
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily just law or just any one thing that caused the burnout. I think it was more a mindset thing. And it's a mindset thing that's very common with people who have these kinds of busy jobs.
Yeah.
And that is that to get to the job, first of all, we have an all consuming educational process, right? Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a CPA, and you're studying for a CPA exam, these things that require these big, time consuming, lengthy processes of education where you put things to the side and you say, okay, after this is over, then I can go on a vacation, then I can have a boyfriend, then I can consider having children, whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
right? You start putting pieces of your life to the side to accommodate that all encompassing thing, which you've been taught by the system requires your 100% attention.
Exactly.
And then you get to the next step in it and you find out that no, law school wasn't the hardest part. That was actually pretty easy compared to being an associate, right? And you come in and you're supposed to work these really long hours and there's an expectation that you're always available. And, I've talked to people who are in large law firms in management level attorney positions who have been angry because an associate didn't answer their phone at 2 in the morning. I literally had a conversation with someone about that. She was considering firing someone because the woman had said, I'm not coming in at 2 in the morning and I'm not answering my phone when I'm sleeping.
Wow.
And, so that stuff really exists. I did not, thank God, work in an environment like that. And at a pretty early point, I won't say early, but 12 years into my career, I started my own practice. And so from that point forward, I really controlled my own time.
Hmm.
But what I found myself doing, because I had that mindset of I'm supposed to give up myself for my career, for my community, for my profession, I started taking on more that wasn't even paid. I started taking on volunteer work as a Chamber of Commerce board member, as an elected representative in my community in an organization that I became the chair of and did all the organizational work behind the scenes. So it wasn't just the law, it was the
Yeah.
law plus, plus, plus. And then one day I hit this wall where I was like, I'm exhausted. I felt detached and like I was giving everything and getting nothing back. Now, was I truly getting nothing back? No, that wasn't really the truth.
Right.
But it was at the time, that's how I felt. And that was the point where I think I sort of hit this wall of I am really, really, really burned out. And I honestly, if I had the money to just walk away and take a 5 year vacation, I would have,
Yeah.
you know, but I didn't have that luxury. So I did what I knew to do, which was to, try to eat better, try to back off a little bit, take some weekends off, go for a run here and there.
Yeah.
And that was all good. But what I didn't realize was that life of chronic stress and of chronic, literally self-abuse for so many years had manifested itself physically. And a couple years after I started feeling like I was better, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, no. Stress will definitely bring on an autoimmune disease.
Yeah. So that's really how I got to that place. And then The autoimmune disease diagnosis was something that was really what some people would call a come to Jesus moment. I got online and I started looking up things about what I have, which is called PBC. It doesn't look good. It's a very scary disease. It attacks the microscopic bile ducts in your liver, and for people that the treatment doesn't work for, could mean a transplant within about 10 years. It's really serious. And so I really took that seriously. And I got online and I started researching about autoimmunity and how do you deal with that in an integrative medicine way, not
Mhm.
just in a here's a drug and if it works, it'll work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And what you have isn't curable, which is basically the medical
Yeah.
behavior. So I changed so many things in my life because of that. I stopped eating gluten after I did an elimination diet. I kind of changed how I exercise. I'm a lot more gentle with my body now than I used to be.
Yeah.
I changed the cleaning products I use. I don't use a bunch of chemicals in my house anymore. I don't use fragrances, for instance, and that kind of thing. What of those things has helped? I don't know. But what I do know is I was able to reverse the damage to my liver from a stage 2 to a stage 0.
Wow.
And I feel better than I did in my 20s. So, something worked. And so you asked how I got to the art of bending time. This is like a really, you're listening to this going, but wait a minute. So I put together a program to help lawyers initially. And then I decided to go a little broader. And I was trying to think of who was I, what was I thinking about at the time when I didn't yet know that there was a problem. I was busy. I was starting to see that there were like glimpses of something going on. And I was looking for that moment where I first thought, okay, things aren't right. What can I do about it? And I realized that what I thought was wrong initially was that I was having trouble managing time. And it wasn't really about time. It was about, almost like ADHD like symptoms that were coming from this, I think, beginning of an autoimmune process
Yeah.
and burnout. People who are burned out can also get brain fog. They get detached, they get scattered and stressed out. And so the ability to be focused and organized and get things done in a way that's efficient kind of goes away. And I realized that was going on. I realized I wasn't getting as much done as I used to, and I couldn't figure out why. So
How old were you, Michelle, at this point?
I'd say let's mid 40s.
Okay, so you could have also been in perimenopause at that point.
I probably was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, early stages, but yeah. And I know in the early stages of a liver disease, which mimics, and that was a whole thing too. Speaking with a Chinese medicine doctor who thought she was treating perimenopause, and when she found out that I had a liver disease, was like, "Oh my God, like that explains why these things I gave you didn't work."
Wow.
So, there's because some of those same things, hot flashes and things like that, happen
Yeah.
to people with liver problems as well. So it's really hard to say. So I was at that point when I knew that all I knew was I was spinning my wheels and I wasn't getting things done and I couldn't figure out why. And I was going to work and I was reading the same paragraph 8 times and then I was getting interrupted by emails that took me down a rabbit hole and 4 hours later, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And so that was the beginning of, trying to figure out how I could get more efficient again. And so I bought a time management course. And the reason that I made the art of bending time was that I realized that in the end, looking back, like I said, first of all, the first thing I thought I needed help with was time management. But the other thing was I realized at the end of this road, I'm not going to say I woke up one day and the veil was lifted, but it was kind of like that. Like
Mhm.
I woke up one day and I went, I like my job again. I'm enjoying my life again. I'm feeling again, right?
Yeah.
And and things feel good and I'm happy and I'm engaged and I'm getting things done and I'm more efficient. Like all that stuff that I thought was a problem had sort of just gone away. And I was like, what did I do? And I did all those different things. And so what I did was I put a lot of that into the art of bending time. And it's things that, although they were things I adopted because I got an autoimmune disease and I was trying to fix that, they're really things that all of us can benefit.
Give an example of what you were doing that changed.
Okay. So one of the things that I did, and I tried to make it sort of a practice in my life.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I picked this up, but it has helped me in such incredible ways, was to really get clarity on those tiny little things that light me up and make me happy. And I don't mean by that like winning an award or going on a vacation or whatever. I mean little stuff like seeing the contrast. I'm looking above my screen right now and there's this beautiful cloud and there's different colors of gray and bright white and like I'm very artistic, so I see things like that and it's like, wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right? I wake up in the morning and I go get coffee and enjoying the ambiance of the place that I'm in and the smell of the coffee and how the cup feels in your hand. Like those kinds of things, which seem so small and so insignificant, when you start to recognize them again,
Yeah.
you start to connect to your world in a way that fuels you as you get through your day. So when you get burned out, you lose that connection.
Yes.
So you become, everything gets kind of dull and you're not connecting with that essence of who you really are. So that's one thing. It's huge. Another is the impact that we don't really think about how big of a deal this is, but the impact of our basic health habits on how we feel and how we can go about our day. Getting enough hydration, sleeping enough, sleeping well, because you can sleep 10 hours, but if you're interrupted all the time, it's not necessarily that helpful.
Right.
Eating a wide variety of different kinds of foods that are good for you. I'm not telling people go be keto, go be pescatarian, whatever, but eat a good variety of different kinds of healthy foods that aren't things that come out of a box with 25 different ingredients.
Right. Right.
And, also making sure to physically move your body in whatever way that is. It doesn't have to be going to the gym for 2 hours every day. It doesn't have to be getting on a treadmill and running a marathon. It could be getting up in the morning and going for a walk for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be carrying your grocery home. My grandmother was very fit and my grandmother never exercised in her life. She just never stopped moving. So moving your body matters so much. And for reasons that we don't even talk about this. Your lymph system doesn't work if your body doesn't move.
Right.
So doing those kind of things help you be engaged, help you be alive, help you feel good. And all of that helps you be more on task and focused. Then there's real time management skill kind of stuff. And I do teach people about that. Things like getting rid of distractions. Like I mentioned, going into emails and 3 hours later, right?
Yeah.
And so, there are ways that you can deal with those things. You can delegate if you have someone to delegate to. You can create a process where, for instance, I tell people kill the notifications, all of them. Like just get rid of them. And
Yeah, they're annoying and distracting. The
they're incredibly
notifications.
distracting. And if you
Yes.
need to be in a flow state to do the work you do,
Yeah.
let's say you're writing and you need to be in a flow state and your computer has notifications every time an email comes in, you're never going to be in a flow state.
No.
You're
Right.
just going to constantly, there's that constant, like part of your brain is always like over here, right? And so get rid of it. And then you can go through your emails and later, I suggest people sort them by who they're from before they respond or before they look at them. because that way you can delete about 90% of what's there without even reading it.
Yes.
And you don't even have to take the time to, in your mind, decide. All you have to do is go, this whole category is ads from whatever company, bang, gone, right? And it took you a second versus having to take that second to recognize on every one of them that's in your list. So there are a lot of different kinds of tricks like that that are helpful.
That's great. So now you're no longer in your legal career, is that correct?
No, I'm now 100% of my time coaching and consulting on the art of bending time.
And who are your clients? The majority.
Busy, yeah, busy people who want to be able to live a better life and get more done. And, people hit a point, most of the people I work with are roughly 35 to 55. They've reached a level in their career where there's a lot expected of them. They probably have a family, they have a lot of obligations, and they feel like they can't do well at any of it because they're so pulled in 20 different directions. And
Right.
that's usually the stress that brings somebody who feels like, okay, well, what can I do? Right.
Right.
And what we do then is we find ways to get them doing the things that they do best and that give them joy and give them, move them toward their real goals that matter to them and serve their purpose as opposed to being scattered and depleted by other people's priorities and things that don't matter.
Yeah. So what are some of the most surprising results that your clients experience when they start implementing your methods? What
It's
do you
sometimes it's crazy stuff. Like it's not always about, like it's not linear. And this
Right.
is the whole concept of the art of bending time is it's not linear. Time is linear when you use it as a construct with a clock, but really the impact of your time and the value of what you put towards something can be increased exponentially by doing things like building a team or having a real plan so that you're multi I'm not going to say multitasking in the sense of doing more than one thing, but if your one thing has a positive impact on three goals, in a sense you're multitasking, not really. You're doing one thing, but you're maybe becoming better at a bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll get one of the more surprising things that came out, for instance, was when I went through a clarity exercise with one of my clients. We realized that he wasn't really exercising much anymore because he was working out with his kid, and his kid was 3 years old.
Uh,
so, so the kid was getting a nice example of this is what we do in our house. Mommy and daddy work out in the mornings, and they were playing with the kid in the morning. But he was a really physical guy, and it was affecting him in that he was losing his energy and his motivation in other ways. And so when we realized he wasn't doing what he needed to do, and he lived near the beach and he loved surfing, we decided he would go surfing every day for a week.
very nice.
And when he went surfing every day for a week, his sales call volume doubled.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the kind of thing where I'm like, it doesn't necessarily line up, but what happens is when you're taking these things that fuel you in one part of your life, sometimes it catches fire someplace else.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. And by the end of 12 weeks, that guy had doubled his business.
Wow.
And it was directly related to recognizing what lit him up and making a point of getting it again. And it
So
had
they
nothing to do with the
definitely,
business, right?
yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it was just that my point was that it had nothing to do with the business, but it had everything to do with how effective he was.
Yeah. So it's a blend of what lights you up personally
Mm-hmm.
along with your business.
Yeah,
So,
so getting those things that light you up personally so that you have that joy, you have that energy and that positive power that comes into whatever you're doing.
yeah,
And that then has a magnifying effect on the impact of what you're doing.
yeah. So many professional people, they often feel very stuck, right? Or overwhelmed or completely drained. And if you say something like, well, you have to do something that lights you up, they feel like, I don't have time to do that. So how can someone begin to bend time even if they feel like they just don't have the extra time? Is it just simple little, maybe 15-minute steps of doing something that they enjoy, like baby steps into it?
It can be, or it can be like with this guy I told you, he
Yeah,
spent about an hour every morning going surfing.
right,
And before, he had been getting up early and he'd been spending about the same amount of time playing with his kid, right?
right.
So, sometimes it's a matter of shifting things, and it's a matter of, if you know that you're not focused, you're not getting things done, you're spinning your wheels, you're better off working an hour than working 3 hours getting nothing done,
Yeah,
right? So if you can do something that helps you have one supercharged hour versus three scattered, wasted hours, you should take that supercharged hour any day. And maybe that means that from that 3 hour block, you've got an hour that you could spend going to the gym, or you've got an hour that you could spend doing something like, maybe you're an artist and you're into painting, or you never get a chance to talk to your family and you call your mom.
mhm,
Whatever that is that gives you something that you need, and then you get more out of that extra time, that other time. Because and that's where the bending time part comes in. When you do the things that make you more effective, then it takes less time to get more done.
yeah, yeah. What role does mindset play in reclaiming time and energy?
Well, it's all mindset, right? I mean, really, it's all mindset. The reason that getting those things that light you up works to make you have a more effective time
Yeah,
is because of mindset. It's because when you've come out of that experience of feeling good, feeling happy, feeling lit up and alive, you carry that alive mindset into the tasks that you're focused on. And when you do that, you're going to get more done. You're going to be more connected, more likely to get in a flow state.
yeah. Can you share a practical exercise or a tool that our listeners could start using today to gain back time and reduce stress? That's
Yeah,
the
well,
key.
one of the things I offer people, and I'll give you a way to get to that, is I have a downloadable, it's like a guided meditation and journal
Oh,
prompts about finding clarity on those sparks that light you up. That is one tool I think is really helpful. Another that I find is just essential is when you're in that place, and it happens to everybody, where it's all coming at you at once and you feel like you just can't, you don't know what to do, or you don't know what to do first, or you feel like you're split into three and it's not, you're not effective.
yeah,
Take a step back, literally stop and take a step back and consider what matters most right now, and do that. And don't try to do three things all at once. If you can't, if you've got three different things, and your perception is that you are personally needed for each one of these three different things, and they would require you to be in three different places or three
hmm,
different completely different mindsets, then you need to find a way to either get somebody to help you,
hmm,
or to spread those out in a way in different parts of your day where you're not trying to do the three things at the same time,
yeah.
right? And a lot of times, people find themselves in that position where all of a sudden it's just like, right? You've got to,
I've
you're
been there.
yeah, and most of us have.
Yes.
But it's not possible to do all those things. So that, and giving yourself the grace of understanding you're one human being.
And it's okay to take a break.
It's
even
okay.
during, yeah, even during the course of a busy day to step out and go into the sunshine or take a short walk, which may help you to regroup and come back more refreshed and clear-minded too.
Exactly. And it's also okay to ask for help. This is something that, for some reason, a lot of us have this belief that we have to do it all on our own and we can't ask for help. It's like a sign of weakness, or
Yeah.
it's a sign that we're not capable or whatever. The fact is that, people need help sometimes. And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And there's nothing wrong with it. The irony I find in this is that a lot of times the people who are the least likely to ask for help are the most likely to offer it to other people.
Yeah. I think as women, we feel uncomfortable asking for help.
Yeah.
We want to take it all on ourselves. And
And we somehow we've come up with this idea that asking for help means weakness, or
yeah,
that, but I was thinking about it recently, and like when I was a kid, I was on a swim team and we practiced 5 days a week, you know, and it wasn't close. It was at a high school that was not the high school that my neighborhood fed into, the other one in our county, which was quite a distance away. And my mom was a housewife. So it wasn't like my mom didn't have, she theoretically could have driven me every single day, but there was a carpool. The moms only drove once a week. And we had a bunch of us all sharing a ride, and they organized a carpool so that somebody's mom drove on Monday and somebody's mom drove on Tuesday. And now I talk to all these people who they drive their kid every single freaking day to
yeah,
school or to this or to that. And it's like, why? Why are you doing that when you could band together with the other moms who are in the same boat?
right.
And like I said, my mother was a housewife. It wasn't like she was, you know, she didn't have a job she had to go to. She had other things. I had a younger sister. She had her things too. But like, I think it was just more accepted in her day to do that. And we lack community. And part of the reason we lack community is because of these things. It's because we don't band together with the other moms. It's because we don't ask for help from the person at the office who might be able to cover your meeting when you need to be someplace else at the same time.
Yeah,
But when we start sharing and helping each other, you start having actual relationships, and that makes everything better. And it also expands your capacity, which is bending time.
yeah. So, how is it possible that your clients are gaining at least 10 extra hours a week without quitting their jobs? Is it that they're delegating more of their responsibilities over to someone else?
It's a
Oh,
lot of different things. It's knowing what matters.
okay.
That's part of it. When you know what matters and you stop spending your time on the stuff that doesn't matter, you can automatically get rid of a whole lot of stuff. There's a concept in business called the 80-20 rule. Are you familiar
Hmm.
with that?
Yeah,
Essentially 80% of the impact comes from 20% of the effort. So that means we're spending 80% of our time on stuff that doesn't have impact,
right.
right? So, having an idea, having more clarity on what matters, sometimes for some people, just that alone could get them 2 hours a day. Then you've got what happens to you when you're healthier, when you're eating and sleeping and
Yes,
hydrated, you don't have a headache dragging you down, you don't feel like crud and low energy. You're energetic and you're on task.
yeah,
You're not scattered, you're not lacking focus. Again, you're going to get the same thing done in half the time, right? So you've right there again, you've saved a ton of time.
right.
And it's the combination of all those things that if you do those things together, finding people to share the burden with, understanding what if you've got a goal, building a team around that goal, finding a mentor, asking for advice, Sometimes just asking for advice can save you the 5 hours of initial research that you would have needed to do when somebody could just tell you in a 5-minute conversation, don't waste your time doing this, this, and this, start over here.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So,
Absolutely.
is it like you're going to sit there and for the last 2 hours of work, sit there doing nothing because you've got all your stuff done? Not really. But what it is going to do is it's going to give you way more focus to get that, what if instead of 80% of your effort is spent on wasted time, you spend 40% of the effort and you get twice as much done?
Hmm.
Because now the 80-20 rule became the 40-60 rule.
So, for anyone that's on here listening to this conversation and they feel dead inside or like they're running on empty, what's the very first step that they can take towards flipping the switch and thriving again?
Okay, that's where that clarity exercise comes in. And the reason I say that is because everybody's different.
Okay.
So maybe you're an artist and you love creating things. And if you just took half an hour with a sketchbook, it might give you that light that you need to get to the rest of your day. It may be that you're physical, and like my client I told you about, spending a half hour surfing in the morning was the
Hmm.
thing that got him lit up and going, or taking a walk, or going to the gym, or, you know, listening to music and dancing in your living room. For any, like everybody's got those things, right? That just make them really happy and joyful and excited and ready to go. So if you can tune in on that for yourself, you have to know what it is that lights you up.
Yeah.
And then you can choose to find that and you can look for it and you can proactively get it into your day. And when you do that, it's like getting a little bump every time, you know,
Hmm.
because you're getting something that just gives you a little bit of joy. It's just like a little bit of fuel that helps move you along through your day.
Well, that's great advice. So, what does living a truly designed life look like for you today? And how do you continue the practice of the art of bending time in your own daily life?
Okay, so one of the things I get into for people is habit building. So I will say that, some of those things that I made changes that were really big, huge, hard changes at the time,
Yeah.
like completely changing how I ate and, things like that. Today they're habit. So it's a little different. Like that's now a normal part of my life. I, you know, I eat real food. I try to make a point of getting up and I'm a very I'm how do I describe this? I'm not going to say I'm not a morning person because that's not true. I tend to wake up like clockwork without an alarm at about 7:30. That's my body. My body goes, "Okay, I get up at 7:30." I have sort of a ritualistic ease into the morning kind of morning where I get up, I take a hot bath, I take my dog for a walk, I have a cup of coffee along the way. We go by, we walk along the water, and I'm thinking about my day as that's happening. Sometimes I listen to educational podcasty kind of stuff, or like I'm part of a mastermind and I'll listen to things that are lessons for that program
Yeah.
while I'm walking. But that time it's sort of easing me in. And then I don't start anything until 10. Like real, like actual active stuff. My first appointment, like with you today, my first appointment of the day is at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And the reason I do that is because I like to have that ease in time. For me, that matters. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter for everybody, but for me, it matters.
It
Now,
matters for me too.
I
Yeah.
guess I could do that earlier if I had to, but there's this reality called darkness, right? So it wouldn't be the same if I got up and wandered outside at 6 in the morning and it was still dark outside and the coffee shop I go to is closed then. And, so there's sort of aspects that, like, if I tried to do that earlier, it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So that's one piece of it. That's something that I do. I have some big, big goals that matter that I'm like, I want things to happen in the longer term sense, in a great big longer term sense. One day I want to have enough money to retire in comfort and not like wonder where my next meal is going to come from.
Yeah.
I really want to make a difference to the people that I'm working with. And, that means reaching as many as I can. So I'm learning about how to get out there and market this kind of business and all that kind of thing. That's an important thing for me right now. I'm writing a book. Having the book get done is important. I hate to call them elderly, aging parents.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are in their early 80s and they're starting to have some, health issues. And I want to be able to be there for them. They don't
Mhm.
live close. If I help, it means, like I left and spent 3 weeks at my parents' house helping my mother through a knee surgery, things like that. I want to be able to do those things and still be able to work. So I'm designing my lifestyle in a way that I'm working in a career that I can work online.
Right.
So if I need to go to Indianapolis, where my mom and dad live, and spend a long time helping them, I can do that and I can still work.
Yes.
So that's some examples of what I'm doing. Can everybody do that? No. Some people have jobs where they have to show up every day and
Yeah.
it's 9 to 5 or it's 9 to 7 or 8 or whatever it is. And, more and more people have flexibility.
Yeah.
It seems like more and more people who have those kind of, what used to be brick and mortar jobs are now hybrid and they're working at home part of the time and they have a little more power to be flexible. But a lot of times those companies have just brought their brick and mortar mindset into somebody's home because they're still looking at when did you log onto your computer and
Yes.
are you on the Zoom call? And, so it's not necessarily like it's the same freedom as if you were truly working from home on your own terms.
Right.
But again, I mean, that's individualized. And, when I work with somebody on coaching, obviously those things are things we look at as, what are your freedom points where you can make changes and what are the things you have to comply with?
Yes. What are your hours? Do you have set hours where you don't go over on a daily basis?
I really don't. It depends. And sometimes like, I'm doing podcasts with Australians right now. Sometimes I've had podcasts that started at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
I try not to do that very often,
Yeah.
but if it's one I'm really interested in being on and that's when they can see me, I'm going to do it. I, I, I value my sleep. I do protect my sleep. I like to have at least one weekend day that I can be, just basically do nothing if I want,
Hmm.
or go to a museum or go for it, whatever it is that I'm going to do and have time to see my friends and that kind of thing. I try to look at the tasks that need to get done and I try to fit them into a reasonable number of hours during the day, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to work at 7 o'clock one night because there's something at 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's a place where people really fall down. I mean, I like to say that I think work-life balance is bullshit. The reason I say that is because a lot of times, we're whole human beings and the things we do for our work and the things we do in our lives have the potential to weave together and interact in a way that makes them better. But if we have a construct in our head where we don't cross the line between work and life, that never happens.
Right.
And, I'll give you a really good example. This happened just yesterday. I had a conversation yesterday with a girlfriend of mine from high school who I stayed in touch with for years. And she's been following some of my things I've been doing on LinkedIn. And she reached out and she said, you know what? There's this person that I know. I met her like 20 years ago, and she's a psychologist and she's doing this really cool work. And it sounds a lot like what you do. And the funny thing is, this person who she then connected with me on LinkedIn with a note is somebody I've been following for like 3 years. And I really admire her work, right? And this isn't somebody I didn't know I had any connection there. I've just kind of followed her stuff and thought, wow, she's done some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, because my friend from high school knows what I'm doing, the connection's been made. But
Yes.
if I made a box in my head where I only talked to my friend from high school about, personal stuff and never talked to her about what I was doing professionally, she wouldn't have any idea.
Right. Yes. That's so true.
So, and that kind of thing happens all the time. Or you meet somebody at a conference and you meet their spouse and their spouse has a connection.
Yes.
And, one of the biggest mistakes I ever saw being made at lawyer events, there were always, these big national conferences, the ABA runs them and whatever. And they have these beautiful events that take place in, I used to go to Tucson every year for one. And people would bring their spouses. And there was among the lawyers often this difficulty, I'll call it. It was like they had an inability to communicate or have a conversation with someone who wasn't a lawyer.
Wow.
So they'd be at a lawyer event, they'd meet other lawyers, they'd talk to them about their cases and what they were working on and what their firm was doing. And then they'd turn to the person's spouse and say, "Are you a lawyer too?" That
Yeah.
was literally the first thing they would ask them. And then when they weren't a lawyer, they didn't know what to say, and the conversation would die. Well, sometimes that spouse is, in the case of one of the spouses of someone I knew in law, the executive director of a massive, massive national not for profit. Sometimes that person's spouse might be someone who has knowledge about your like biggest, most favorite hobby.
Right.
And if you just bother to have a real conversation, you'd learn that.
Yes.
But a lot of times, again, it's that work-life balance, that box, right? They're in their lawyer box. Now they can't think about anything but the lawyer box. And if you're not part of that, they don't even want to talk to you. Where if they opened up, they might find out that, they're into historic restoration and you're the historic restoration chair of some organization or you're an architect. And those things matter. Like when one of the things I try to get people to do in the concept of this connecting the dots is to really be your whole self with the people you know in all parts of your life because it opens doors that might not be there otherwise.
Yeah.
And it expands when you have that ability to connect to somebody and to take advantage of their knowledge and their contacts. It expands everything that you can do, and that's the ultimate in bending time.
Yeah. But I want to ask you something, Michelle. When you went from being an attorney to
Hmm.
being, I guess we'll call you a life coach, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Did people that you knew when you told them that you were making the shift in your career, did some of them, or maybe they may not have vocally said to you, "Oh, I think you're crazy for doing that," but did you get some kind of an inkling that some people just couldn't understand why you would leave a career as an attorney to do this?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like even
And
your parents.
especially my parents. Especially my parents, and especially and this was, by the way, for me, it was not like an immediate one day I'm a lawyer and one day I'm not.
Right,
I stopped taking new clients in 2019, and I worked through my caseload because I had my own firm. So I
right.
I just basically over time I worked less and less as a lawyer as I was learning the tools that I needed for this. I became a certified health coach in 2017.
Okay.
And I was during the interim, I was a Beachbody coach for a while.
I
That
was
was really
too.
just something I did because I wanted to lose weight. And then I got connected for the discount. And then I started learning how much that community really offered. And so that was part of that journey for me. So it wasn't like 100% shift where everybody was like, oh my God, Michelle's doing something that's so crazy out of her wheelhouse, so to speak, because
Yeah.
they'd seen me as a Beachbody coach for a long time before I made
Okay.
the shift to the art of bending time and consulting and doing workshops and that kind of thing. So, but yes, there are those people for sure who have that mindset of it's really important that, you get the right education and then you finish and then you get the job and then you become the partner and then you have your own business or whatever, and you do that till you die, right?
Mhm.
And there are plenty of people who think that way. And I guess the thing for me was being a lawyer was never 100% good fit for me. I'm very, very good at it, which in a way was worse because it's really hard to extricate yourself from something you're really good at.
Yeah.
And, but that doesn't mean that the same skills that made me really good at being a lawyer are the skills that make me really good at being a coach.
Yeah.
I was masterful at taking depositions, at connecting with people and getting the stories out of them and finding where the evidence was. And when you think about it, when you're coaching, when you're working with somebody and you're helping them discover those things in themselves,
Yeah.
it's very similar.
Yeah.
So, it's, yes, there were people who were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're throwing away all that work. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not throwing away all that work. I learned a lot from it that is bringing me to where I am now. And, I earned the money that gave me the ability to take the time that I can build this business
Right.
because I was good at that, but it's not what I want to be for my whole life. And I think I can do more for the world and more, be more aligned with who I am, doing something different.
I love that you took that leap of faith
Yeah,
because we have one life to live and we should be living it in our true, authentic self and
exactly.
what lights you up on a daily basis. And so I think it's wonderful. I mean, I worked in corporate America for 27 years. I was in human resources. And when I was 61, my company merged with another company and I lost my job. And I was like, okay, so I was
What
a
do you-
health coach also from 2017, I believe I got certified. And I was like, well, I'm not going back to corporate, so I'm going to utilize my skills in other areas. And so
Yeah.
here I am. And I
Well, and
love
that's
it.
and it's great. And the skills that you're using them in a way I'm sure that's better for the people you're helping and it's better for you.
Absolutely.
And, there were things about law that I loved and I was good at, and there were things about law, specifically systemic things about the process of litigation and the things you have to do as part of what the rules require of you
Yeah.
that I had a real hard time with because I was representing regular people and small businesses, and the system is set up in such a way that it's extremely expensive to be in a lawsuit. And I was way too nice. I mean, I didn't get rich being a lawyer because I gave away my time a lot.
Yeah.
And I discounted my fees when my clients couldn't afford to pay me, and I knew it. And I was like at a point where I'm like, you're winning your case. Like it would be terrible to quit right now. I
Yeah.
had times where I reduced my fees significantly to help people out so that they could get through it because I knew that, 95% chance they were going to win at the end, but the system was beating them into the ground to where they couldn't afford to continue. And I was nice enough to do that. A lot of lawyers would have just quit at that point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, did I want to stay in a position like that? I didn't. It was really frustrating and really wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So,
So where can people find you?
okay, people can find me a couple of ways. One way is that if you have your phone and you're not driving your car right now, you could pull out your phone and go to your text messaging and text the word clarity to the number 33777.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a link for your show notes that'll have the same, it'll go to the same place, which is a community page I have. It's free. And the point of the page really is to have tools there to help people out. And that's where I have my downloadable clarity exercise and the journal prompts I mentioned.
Oh,
So people can
excellent.
sign up, and that'll also put them into my ecosystem, so to speak, so that they can then, if I do a webinar or whatever, I'll let them know then.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. This was such a great conversation. I absolutely love what you're doing. I think it's fabulous. And I love the fact that you took the time to really evaluate what was important to you and your health. And you walked away from that career and you're doing something that truly lights you up. And that's what life is all about.
Yeah, it really is.
So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so.
much, Susan.
It was my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all for listening today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and got a lot out of it. I will put in the show notes where you could reach Michelle and how you could get her information. Thank you again. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming on. If you could think of anyone who would benefit from listening to this episode, I would love it if you could share it out with them. Also, if you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please be sure to subscribe. Again, thank you so much for being here. Until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now.